Hey everyone, welcome to Geeks for Geeks. I'm Ishan Sharma, and in today's video, we'll try to understand 5 mistakes beginner web developers make. Let's get started. So what happens is that whenever you start with web development, there are some mistakes that I see a lot of people make, and that's what I want to discuss. Now, some of them are quite common. You already might be knowing about them. Like for example, putting in CSS as well as JavaScript into your HTML code. Definitely not recommended. Don't do that at home. Not using the HTML5 tags, not commenting your code. So these are some things that you already know, but today I'll just be talking about 5 mistakes that people don't recognize often. Now, the first mistake that people make is going to be to not write responsive code. Now you have to understand that right now in 2021, it's all about responsive design. You have to make sure that your website is responsive, that you can access it on your phone, on your laptop. There are screen sizes ranging all the way from 4 inches all the way up till 17-inch laptop. So you have to make sure that whatever website you are making is usable, is viewable on all of these different screen sizes. Okay. Another mistake people make is to not make their website compatible for different browsers, right? So there are tons of browsers outside of Google Chrome as well that you need to optimize for. Okay. And so let's say you're doing like some animation. So for that animation in CSS, you have to make sure that you are using WebKit as well as you are using that Moz WebKit and other ones as well, so that you can optimize it for Mozilla Firefox or for other web browsers as well. Okay, similar applies for fonts as well. So you have to make sure that you are keeping that in check, right? So responsive design is a must in 2021. If you are a web developer, this is a skill that you should always be having. Mistake number 2 that people make, I feel, is not using extensions that are provided in your code editors. Okay, so you want to understand one thing, that a lot of times in HTML or in CSS and in JavaScript as well, there's actually a lot of code that you are writing again and again. This is repetitive code. Okay, and there's a very common saying in software development is to not repeat yourself. Okay, don't repeat yourself with the code that you are writing. You want to make sure that you optimize the time that you have and write as much code as possible. So there are a lot of these filler code that you can fill with the help of boilerplates, as well as for using things like prettier as well as brackets. These will allow you to understand exactly how your code actually works. You will be able to better manage your code. Let's say you're working like a huge website. This will be really, really helpful to you. Okay, so make sure that you use these extensions. If you want to know about all of these extensions, I have made a video on that too. You can check that out on the channel. Now moving on to the third mistake people make is to not format your code properly and to not use rem, em or percentages in your CSS. Okay, a lot of people just use pixels, and that is not a good thing. Let's say you have like an image, right? You have an image and you just said that, okay, I want the image max width to be 400 pixels. You do not want to do that, because you don't know on which screen size are they actually viewing it. How many pixels are there on a particular screen that they are accessing the website from? Let's say they're accessing it from like a huge 4K monitor. On that, if you look at the image, it would look quite small, versus if you have like a very small screen size on like a phone, that would look quite big. So you want to make sure that you accommodate for that difference by using percentages, or even better using relational spacing with rem and em. Okay, so that is the third mistake. Also, you have to make sure that you are styling your code properly. You are using the latest conventions. Let's say you want to name a particular class or a particular ID. You want to use the BEM convention or some other conventions that are there, but make sure that your code is usable and people can understand what you are doing over there. Now, the fourth mistake people make as a beginner in web development is to rely too much on JavaScript libraries as well as frameworks. So you want to understand one thing here. Whenever you have a JavaScript library or a framework, these are abstractions on top of the already language that you are using. So what is important to understand here is that you are currently in the learning phase of a particular language. And on top of that, if you just use like a simple library or a simple framework, that will take away a lot of the lessons that you could have learned if you would simply use, let's say, vanilla JavaScript. That is really important. You do not want to simply get like a JavaScript library or framework like React, Vue, Angular very much early on in your experience of JavaScript. You want to give it some time, understand how vanilla JavaScript actually works, and once you have proper understanding about it, then you can obviously go with using React, using components, and that is going to be important. So let's say you want to build a simple JavaScript video player or an audio player. Don't go and use some library that can ease out the process for you. Try to make it from yourself, from scratch, and that will teach you a lot about how JavaScript works at its core. Okay, this would also be helping you out if you go for some interview. So the interview questions will be a lot easier if you have spent time on vanilla JavaScript. Now moving on to the fifth mistake people make, and that would be to ignore SEO as well as optimization. So a lot of times you are just focused so much on creating a simple web page that you forget that there's something called as search engine optimization as well as the image optimization as well. So let's say you have like 5 images on a particular web page. This is a mistake that I have made. I just simply put that image in my complete folder and I started using it. Each image was about 1 MB. So the complete size of my web page became close to like 7 or 8 MBs. And whenever I would load it, it would just take a lot of time. And you can think of what would happen if someone has like a slower internet speed. They would just not be able to use this website. So in production, when you are building out a product that people can actually use, you want to make sure that you optimize the experience that they'll have. So you have to reduce the file size of the images. You have to do some SEO as well, so that they can access that particular website easily. All right, that's what I would say. These were the 5 mistakes people make as a beginner in web development. Let me know what are your thoughts in the comment section below, and make sure that you hit the like button, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.